Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Supervisor Anne-Marie Graham-Hudak, and we have a couple of different topics to discuss today. Later, we will be discussing the Canton Road Improvement Program with Canton Clerk Michael Segrist and Trustee Summer Foster. But first, I'm joined by Municipal Services Director Jade Smith and Trustees Kate Berninsky and later on Tanya Ganguly as we explore a new recycling initiative kicking off in the community this spring. So Kate, tell us why you think recycling is so important in the community.
So recycling is important for a number of reasons. One is being able to reuse some of our natural resources. Another is to make sure that we keep those items out of the landfill because that will extend the life of our landfill. And so I think, a program that we're starting, that we're talking about today is really important because we need to make sure that we protect our natural resources and also extend the life of our landfill because we want to keep recycling out of the landfill.
Okay, thank you. Jade, why don't you tell us a little bit about this recycling program?
Sure. So in 2019, we were made aware of a grant through the partnership with the state of Michigan and Eagle that we could have qualified for an education recycling grant, which is to help with the contamination of our recycling. So we received the grant in the amount of $85,000, which will allow us to send out flyers and actually get boots on the ground, walking house to house, looking in the recycle bins to have a positive impact on our recycling program and to create a less contaminated recycle bins, cleaner recycling, and really just educate the entire township.
Okay, and when does the program begin?
So we will kick it off on April 19th, and it goes for 8 weeks, so it'll go through June 19th.
Through June 19th?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Kate, what are some of the things that you've heard from residents about the program?
Well, I've heard that residents have a lot of questions. One of the questions that I have seen is if my recycling bin is tagged and then and then it's not picked up the next week, will it ever be picked up again? And I think that's a really important question for residents to get the answer to. And my understanding is that, yes, it will be picked up again. The question is when. And so maybe Jade could touch on that.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll kind of go into how the program is going to work a little bit. Mm-hmm. What it will be is we've already started the mail out campaign and the social media campaign. So we will send, and then there's also going to be a direct mailer. So information is going to go to every household within the township talking about what's acceptable for recycling, what's not acceptable for recycling. And it's going to explain how this program is going to work. And before we actually go out and start looking in the bins, we're actually going to look at a load of recycling from Canton Township, and it's going to look at our contamination rate, so we'll have a baseline. And then for the next 8 weeks, we will have people going bin to bin, looking in the bin every week and looking for contamination. Now, they're not going to dive into the bins, but they're going to do a quick check. And if we see contaminants within the bin, then they will have a warning tag, which will say and they will get picked up that time, but they're going to be left a tag saying your recycling was contaminated today. If that particular house is found to be contaminated, if we find contamination in the recycling bin again, they will actually be left. The recycling will be left, and we will not pick up the recycling. They will be left another tag, which will actually let them know why. That only happens once. They will absolutely continue to be picked up as we move forward. It's not that once they are tagged one time and the pickup is refused, they come back on the pickup schedule. So it's not a forever thing. This is just an education process to get people to start thinking differently about the way they recycle.
Okay, thank you. So Kate, do you find that most of your neighbors do recycle?
So I think it's mixed. I think they try. Mm-hmm. And I will say, our family, we thought we were recycling well, and then it turned out that those pizza liners in the pizza boxes were not supposed to be recycled, and we didn't know that. And so I think there is some education that needs to happen. I've also heard about some neighbors that don't recycle and just use the recycling bin for trash, and that's not the purpose of those. So if that happens, then it's my understanding the whole load is not able to be recycled, and so that all of that would go to the landfill, which is what we're trying to prevent.
Right. Jade, what are the most common contaminants that we are looking for?
Pizza boxes is one of them, and because they are dirty, that's one of the big ones. But the biggest one is actually plastic bags. People think that it has the recycling symbol on there and it can be recycled, and it can be, but it needs to be taken to the correct location, which is probably your grocery store. They usually have those collection bins. But for our single stream recycling process, the plastic bags are a no-no.
I know that a lot of people are asking about those plastic bags, and I know the Krogers and the Meyers aren't taking them back yet. So I know people are keeping them, but we'll have to continue to look for ways to help the residents with that. What about wishful recyclers? You know that people say something and say, hey, this might be recycled. Do you see a lot of that in the recycling also?
We do. I mean, there's a lot of different contaminants. The plastic bags and the pizza boxes are one of the biggest offenders, but there is other things that get put in there too. So we see that a lot as well. And again, it comes down to this education and just letting them know what is acceptable and what's not.
I hear a lot of questions about styrofoam also, and we can't recycle that right now in Canton, and I think, but people would like to, so if we can find options for that, that would be great.
Okay, great. So those are some of the things that we're looking for. We'll just be right back in a few minutes with our next guest, Tanya Ganguly.
Canton is asking residents to help clear residential storm drains that are covered in leaves and or debris. Unclogging storm drains is quick and easy. Simply sweep, rake, or shovel away leaves covering the grate and pile them away from the drain so they do not blow back in again. Don't wait until your storm drains are causing flooding and possible damage to your property. Monitoring storm drains and keeping them clear of leaves will help keep Canton safe and clean.
Keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road so that everyone can make it home.
Welcome back. In this session, we are still going to continue speaking about recycling with our board member, Tanya Ganguly. Welcome, Tanya. So why do you think recycling is important to our community?
I think recycling is important because it reduces the landfills and it also decreases the cost of waste for residents. So if we recycle more and our landfills are less, it really helps in also reducing the cost associated with the waste that we charge through our taxes to our residents. So that really helps residents too in a different way, and also it helps in conserving our resources. And if we keep on expanding our landfill, we will not know where to put our waste next. So it's important to recycle.
Thank you. How do you think the recycling program should be expanded?
I think the recycling program is now for residents for single homes, so maybe we can expand it to apartments in the future or to the businesses and the community organizations, like the religious organizations like the temples and churches. They are also looking into recycling, so we might be able to expand them. Also, we can expand the recycling of the materials like styrofoam, which we now cannot do it in Canton, but if we expand that, the other communities around us also can use it.
Okay, great, thank you. What do you think about the recycling program? That in terms of the ones that we're going to be going and looking in some of the bins?
I think that's a great way to reduce the contamination, because when we contaminate more, I think now is 45% contamination rate and we throw it in the landfill. And if we can reduce that by doing this education program, that basically will help us reuse our resources and will reduce the landfill.
Okay, thank you. So Jade, how successful has this program been in other communities?
Very successful. They've done it in other states. This is the first time they're bringing it to the state of Michigan, but they've actually seen a decrease in contamination of between 10 and 20%, depending on the community.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so how long is it again that people will be out looking for?
It's for 8 weeks.
For 8 weeks. And are we still looking for people to be part of that program?
We are. So we have some part-time paid positions if they'd like to come and help, or if we have some people that really care about the environment and want to volunteer their time, we'll be more than happy to help them with that too.
Where would they find the information or the applications?
Yep. If they go to the website, canton-mi.org, they can go right on there, and it's actually listed on our Human Resources portal right under the job opportunities.
Okay, great. And how much are they paying?
$20 an hour.
$20 an hour. Do you hear that?
Yes.
$20 an hour.
For 8 weeks.
For 8
weeks.
That's
not a bad gig.
We have to get some students out there. Tanya, are there anything else that you would like to say about recycling, what you're looking forward to?
I really hope that people stop putting weird recycling things in their recycling bin. I've heard in the past, apart from plastic and styrofoam, people have put in tires, sometimes electric cable, and we really have so much cardboard, sometimes people don't know, and then sometimes laminated, the pamphlets that we get at our home. I don't think that is recyclable, and people put it in there, and that as a result, we are thinking we are recycling paper, but that goes in the landfill. So, and of course, people don't wash sometimes their bottles and cans.
Yes.
And that really helps if we can do that. It just takes a few seconds, and we do that in our home.
Okay, and Jade, why is it important that we not fill our landfill fast? Obviously, it'll be...
Well, one, it extends the life. And because the landfill is located here in Canton, it actually keeps our waste charges significantly lower than what they would be if we had to haul them to a landfill that was not within our own community. So it will extend the life of the landfill and then hopefully reduce costs for the residents.
Okay, great. Is there a phone number that people can call to find out more, or in terms of finding out what they can recycle?
Yep. I just want to make sure that I've got it correct, so I'm going to actually use my little cheat sheet, but it's 734-397-1011.
1011.
Or they can go to the website, again, canton-mi.org, and the information is going to be on the website as well. And then we also have a very active Facebook page, which is Canton MSD, where there'll be a lot of other questions that can be asked there, and then we answer those questions right on the Facebook page too and share that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there anything else that either of you would like to say about recycling? Or...
I'm really looking forward to the reduce of contamination here, and I'm really excited that our Canton Municipal Services Department is doing this. And if people want to hear more and they don't want to go on their social media, we're also sending it on the Focus newsletter, and we're also going to do a radio announcement and sending blasts to the homeowners associations. So I think that would be a useful way of distributing information in our community.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the recycling segment. We're going to move on to the road section in one more minute. Thank you.
Do you have an interest in working with young people or being a role model for the next generation? Then the Teen Services staff position at the Block Youth and Teen Center may be for you. This position is responsible for leading and supervising activities at the Block Youth and Teen Center for teen participants ages 11 to 17. Teen Services staff is responsible for operating township vehicles and the safe transportation of program participants to assigned locations, as well as assisting in the planning, supervision, and coordination of teen programs, participants, and activities as assigned. This includes after-school programs such as Lead Like a Girl, Be a Model Man, the Youth Advisory Council, Summer Camp, and much more. To apply, you must be a minimum age of 18 years old and must possess a current valid driver's license. Apply today at canton-mi.org or call 734-394-5376 with any questions you may have about becoming part of the Teen Services staff team. Calling all local businesses and community members. The Canton Cares Fund needs your support. The fund, provided through the Canton Community Foundation, lends financial support to Canton Township-sponsored programs assisting seniors, veterans, youth, and the disabled, as well as programs that assist Canton residents following a natural disaster, mass casualty, or significant personal loss. The Canton Cares Fund also supports programs recognizing heroic acts of township employees. So what can you do to help? Go to the Canton Community Foundation's website at cantonfoundation.org to become a sponsor or donor today.
Welcome back to our segment on roads. Our guests right now are Summer Foster, She is a trustee on the board, and Michael Segrist. He's the Canton Township Clerk. So let's start talking about our roads program. How did it first come about?
Excellent question, Supervisor. It goes back to when we all first came on board with the township back in 2016. It was abundantly clear from every conversation we had had at that point in time with residents in Canton Township that the roads were abhorrent, that it looked like there were no solutions to them. If we had continued doing what we had been doing, we would never get to a place where we have even remotely acceptable roads. And in the 90s, the late 90s, the township had gone for a millage to create a local roads program 2 times, and both times it had not passed. Well, a couple of decades have came by, and we thought, we're going to study this issue because 3 of the most dangerous intersections in Wayne County were right here in Canton on Ford Road, and that was unacceptable. Local roads, we have subdivisions that are rife with ASR, which I know is something we'll get into later, but the neighborhood roads were in rough shape, and it was affecting home values. And our local roads, our main county roads, were just they were just not up to snuff. And so we established a roads task force that Trustee Foster sat on. So.
Yeah, I mean, we had always been told that townships don't do roads, and that wasn't acceptable to us, and we know it's not acceptable to our community. And so we really wanted to look at how to help our residents with their local roads. We wanted to come up with a plan for Ford Road because, as you know, that had been something that had been talked about at the state level for about 30 years or so, and no movement had been made on it. And then, also wanting to take care of our main roads, we saw a number of issues there. So we worked with the task force for about 9 months, and we really started talking about funding solutions and options that we had. And, after the task force ended, we sat down with folks at Municipal Services, and we came up with a 20-year roads improvement plan.
Okay, could you guys describe that plan a little bit, what we came up with?
Sure. So over 20 years, we are going to invest 55% of the money collected into our major roads. So like Canton Center, Sheldon, Lilly, that type of thing. We're also going to do 30% for a local roads match program. So that means we contribute money and HOAs contribute money to do work on the local subdivision roads. And then 15% of the money is going to go towards the Ford Road Boulevard project.
Right. And so what's important to talk about is that primary jurisdiction for the roads, Ford Road, Michigan Avenue, those are going to be MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation. That's a state road. So MDOT has had in their vision to reimagine the Ford Road Boulevard, or the Ford Road area for quite some time. However, the funding had never gone through. We had routinely gone to the federal government for what was called a Tiger Grant. And it had failed routinely. I believe we went 11 times, and 11 times the answer was no. But the state was willing to sponsor the project. The state was always willing to put forward a substantial portion of that money. They just needed the federal government to also participate. So we decided if the local roads program was going to be successful, if the community decided they wanted to get into the business of roads, that to see if MDOT was still willing to go forward and sponsor this project, and that we would step in and we would provide a little bit of money. We would create a match just like the neighborhood roads, the HOAs do, for their own local streets. So I believe we committed to roughly 5% of the project costs, and that MDOT or the state of Michigan would take over the remainder. And now, as Trustee Foster just said, the remaining 85% of the millage goes towards all the other roads, the county roads, the county major roads that get us in and out of Canton Township, the mile roads and the half-mile roads, if you will, and then the local roads. Now, we did have some ancillary, some extra money that we used for, we received from Wayne County that we used for Salts Road, which isn't a primary road, but it's also not really a neighborhood road either. We also used that on Hanford as well for some pretty good concrete repair. And I think the overall goal we've got to is to get those major roads to a pretty good rating of the PACER scale. The PACER scale is a term of art that's one, which is a complete road failure, an unpassable road, and 10 being a brand new road, is to try to get those major roads to around 7.2. Because once you get to about 4.6, you start getting into really expensive territory. If you let the roads degrade too far, you end up having to spend $4 for every $1 of repair you would have had on a better road. So the problem with letting the roads deteriorate too bad is it becomes 4 times more difficult to make a bad road good than to keep a good road good.
That makes sense. So Summer, what do you think are some of the major roads that we're going to be looking at this year?
So it looks like we're going to be doing work on Canton Center between Cherry Hill and Ford Road. We are also going to be doing work on, I'm blanking right now.
Haggerty, I believe. There's some sections of Haggerty that are, now there will, it's not just the local roads going on at the exact same time. There are also county projects as well. The Cherry Hill, famous widening of Cherry Hill Road, was broken into 2 phases. The first phase was done this last year during a pandemic here. It was from close to Canton Center Road all the way to Lilly. And then it will extend further from Lilly all the way to Haggerty. And then it will also do some portions north and some portions south of Haggerty Road as well. Now they have to enclose a drain, and part of the problem with Canton is it used to be a swamp. And so there's a lot of drains because the farmers had to drain those swamps. And so the issue with those county drains is that they are usually right next to an old 2-track road. Well, we don't ride on horse and buggies anymore. Canton has grown exponentially. We went from, at the time, probably 500 residents to now we are probably just over 100,000 residents. So our roads have grown with us, and in some cases they haven't. So we're trying to get them into the future as well.
Well, the big things. Sorry, go ahead, Summer.
No, I was just going to add, there's also work going to be done in a number of subdivisions across the township this year, some matched work and some unmatched work. So we will also do some work around some of the drainage basins within the subdivisions.
Now, the last story from last week was potholes that are eating our tires and rims. What about the potholes?
So our roads program is a long-term roads program. It's not about fixing individual potholes. For that, we will still depend on Wayne County. And so there's a number that we're urging residents to call. It's 188 Road Crew to get Wayne County out to help us with the pothole problem.
Yeah. And I think it's important to talk about why the township did not want to get into the business of filling potholes. After every initial thaw, which is right now, we have just coming out of our last freeze. The roads are beat up. They're in horrible condition.
Yeah.
And people want that immediate fix. And if you ask them for that brief month period of the year, and only that month period of the year, they would be willing to spend any amount of money to fill those potholes as fast as possible. And we needed to protect the roads program because the minute we adjusted ourselves to the seasonal whims and dedicated all that money to just filling potholes, we would lose our strategic ability to actually improve the overall condition of the roads, which is difference between road maintenance, which is joint sealing, crack sealing, pothole filling, and road repair. And in some cases, road reconstruction, because there are some roads in Canton Township that are so bad, or they're sick with that term ASR I had used earlier, that they're so bad that they might require a complete pull-out, a complete reconstruction. The concrete is almost unsalvageable. And so we wanted to work with engineers, and we wanted to pull together a strategic plan to get all of our roads to a target PACER rating. And if we went after every single pothole, we would never get there.
Right.
We would never get there. So we're really relying on the county to continue road maintenance, whereas we are focused on road repair.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about this ASR you keep talking about? What does that mean?
So yes, ASR, concrete cancer. So let's go back a little bit. So the roads improvement plan over 20 years, the plan is to bring in $110 million. We bring in somewhere around $5.6 to $6 million a year right now to fix the roads. What we know is that we never intended that this to be a Canton alone project. What we want to do is leverage Canton resources so we can make some repairs on our own, but to also continue working with the county who has ownership over the roads. And also, continue partnerships with the state, MDOT, and the federal government where possible. So what we know about ASR, particularly on Canton Center Road, that fix is going to be somewhere between $5 to $7 million. And bringing in about $5.6 to $6 million, that would be more than we take in a year to fix that particular road. And that road needs more than fixing. What it needs is a complete reconstruction because you can't go in and just fix portions of that road. And so that's one of the things that we're talking about, how to come up with a solution on that. And we know that we have to bring everyone to the table.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, ASR, it's an interesting, to spare kind of the science behind it, which really gets into the pH level of concrete and what goes into it. And it's been nicknamed concrete cancer. And I like to think of it in that terms. And so if you think about it, a pothole will occur on any normal road, asphalt, concrete, or otherwise. And if you think about it in the analogy of cancer, if a pothole is a tumor, on a normal road, it would be a benign pothole. You fill it, it's good. If it's concrete, you cut it out, you re-pour, and it's good. Mm-hmm. The road will continue on for the next decade or 2 decades. Mm-hmm. No problems, no issue. You've isolated the problem, you've removed the problem. The problem with ASR is it's not a benign form. It is malignant. And so a stretch of road, that 1 mile to 1.5 mile stretch of Canton Center Road, or if you're a resident of Sunflower Subdivision, on the south end of Warren Road, or if you live in Glengarry, across from the Township Hall, your concrete was poured during a pretty bad period of time when people were getting experimental. They were trying to reduce carbon emissions, so they changed the mixing requirements. Also, people were trying to make as much money as possible. So they're putting accelerants into the concrete to make it dry faster. Yeah. And they're messing with those mixtures. And the problem with ASR is if you don't test for it, and we have tests for it now, but they didn't back then. If you don't test for it, you don't realize you've got it until a decade down the line, and it's too late. So in that instance, you can remove all those little tumors. And that concrete, that fresh poured concrete that you just put in, is going to be perfect. It'll be great, and it'll last another decade. But right next to it, the next year, you'll see a brand new tumor form, and so on and so forth. And additionally, every time you do a cutout, it creates a crack. It creates a seam in the concrete. And in order for ASR to work, unfortunately, there's one key ingredient: water. When water gets in through cracks, and water gets in through seams. And so the problem with ASR is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a cycle. And once those cracks appear, it continues to, it runs away with itself. And so, you could spend $1 or $2 million every year cutting out the potholes, and you could do that for the next 10 years and spend $20 million, or pull the whole road out, and it might cost you $7 million. Now the problem, as Trustee Foster said, is we don't have that kind of money. So the only way to do that is with county, state, or federal help.
Right. Now, what does it mean in terms of, a lot of residents will say, okay, so you have this program. Does that let the county off the hook to do other programs here?
Yeah. Well, so the county has invested about $16 million in Canton roads in the last 3 years. So it's not like they're not supporting our roads in Canton, because they are the owners of our road in Canton. But what it means is that we can do twice as much work on our major roads because the county is contributing and Canton Township is contributing. And so our roads network is going to last a lot longer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there anything else that you two would like to wrap up with about the roads? A final comment?
Yes, I think it's important that we get this question all the time about the Ford Road project. And it's important to reiterate that it's 15% of the roads improvement plan, and that 85% of what we're doing is for our major and our local subdivision roads.
Okay, thank you.
I agree.
And when will that be starting?
We're looking at starting the Ford Road project.
Yes. Ford Road.
We should get some more information on that this spring from MDOT. They're going to start holding community conversations.
And in all honesty, it has already started. The engineering is being done, the design is being done, and property acquisition is also being done.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you'd like to find out more about our roads program and see an interactive tool, please visit www.canton-mi.org. We'd like to thank our guests, Summer Foster, Michael Segrist, both members on our board, and thank you and see you next time.